Hello, YouTube family and friends. This is Rev with Rev It Up Mustang Fanatic Production. It is another beautiful day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Today, we are working with a 2013 Chevy Silverado 1500 crew cab, two-wheel drive, has the 5.3 8-cylinder engine here, the V8, coil over plugs. So this vehicle has over 200,000 miles on it, and it has a multiplicity of DTCs, diagnostic trouble codes. So what we're dealing with is, I believe, P0171 and another P072 or something like that, which are your upstream oxygen sensor, your downstream O2 sensor, and we have a throttle position sensor failure. We also have multiple misfires, and we have a small evap leak. So I have a ton of things to do. I use my Maxicam MK808 scan tool, and those codes that came up, and I saw the random misfires, and it was like cylinders 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. So I want to say spark plugs are probably toast. Maybe a bad coil over 200 something thousand miles on 2013, but I don't suspect a coil, because coils usually last a good long time. So, but it varies, you never know. And the O2 sensors, you got to be careful when you checking for that. Could be a weak signal, high voltage signal, could be a hole in the exhaust pipe somewhere near around the upstream O2 or the downstream O2. You got to check the wires down there. And for the small evap leak, could be the gas cap, or it could be the vent valve or the purge valve. Got to check for cracks, hoses. Got to check the electrical connections to the canister, vapor canister, and all that stuff you got to take into account. So we're gonna go in here and pull out some plugs and look at the condition of some of these plugs, and we're going to test the coils for ohms. And on this Chevy vehicle, the ohms should be somewhere between 9,500 to, I want to say, no, 7,500 to 10,000 ohms. And the coils should be good. So we'll be doing that and see if we can get rid of all these DTCs on here. So nothing special, same stuff as almost on the Cadillac, but just a little different. Let's go on this side where the sun isn't. Okay, here's your coils, except you got two 8mm bolts right here, and then you see the plug right here. You just pull up on it and pull out. You take those two screws out, and you just pop the end of the spark plug boot, which is right there. You pop the end of that spark plug boot out and pull the coil right up, and then the spark plugs will be underneath that coil. So we're gonna have to pull out all these coils to get to all these spark plugs, and shouldn't be much of a problem. nothing is really in the way, nothing too much to move out of the way to get to the coils on either side. So I'm not going to bore you with how to take out a coil and take out a spark plug. You know how to do that. But I can see right here we got valve cover gasket leaking. I can see caked oil around there, and that always spells trouble. And when you're dealing with misfires in multiple cylinders, you can have a head gasket. And as many miles as on this vehicle, you know, it could possibly be a head gasket going bad, or it could be a bad cylinder. You know, I can see oil deposits a little bit right down here. Another telltale sign, if I pull the coils out and look at the conditions, well, yeah, look at the conditions of the coil, because these are not coil over plugs. The plugs are down in here, but these are the coil packs right here. So if I pull the spark plugs out and there's oil on the plugs, we got some problems. You got wet cylinders. So I'm gonna have at it, and we'll talk to you in a little bit. But meanwhile, right here, this little puppy right here, which is underneath this intake breather, you see this connection right here? Well, that connection goes to the throttle position sensor right there, and that is what we have to take off and put a new one in. It hangs right there on the edge there. When I pull this apart and take off the tube, you'll see that I did a throttle body position sensor in one of my videos on a '08 Chevy Suburban. They had the same 5.2 liter engine. So you got to take this off, get these plastic clips off, and they come with new clips, and then you got to make sure that it's in the same position where you take this one out and put the new one in, and then you got to reset the throttle. And my scan tool has a relearn on that. So I got a lot of work ahead of me. I'm gonna be all over this thing. We'll let you know what we find. Okay, YouTube, I got the bank 1 spark plugs out, cylinders 1, 3, 5, 7, and on the passenger side it's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, and the firing order is going to be 1, 8, 7, 2, 6, 5, 3, 4 and 3. That is the firing order. But I took the plugs out, and let me tell you something, a good handy tool. You want to get you some hose clamps like this, or some spark plug pullers. All I do is just put it on here like this, and I twist it to break the seal, and I pull it off by hand. And a lot of these 5.2 liters and the 4.7s, the 6.2, all of them, they're famous for these spark plugs wires to be stuck or welded to the spark plug, to the acrylic part of the plug, and you can't get them loose. So what I like to do is by hand, I'll try and twist this left and right and twist it until I break the seal. Then I'll take these hose clamps, and where that indent is, I'll put the hose clamps right around there like that, and then I'll pull back out. That way the whole thing comes out with the spring. And so, and I take and I number the protective cover that seals this from getting too hot from the exhaust manifold. I numbered them and put the spark plug back inside the boot on that side, 1, 3, 5, 7. So let me tell you what's going on already. You see the condition of these plugs. Look at the ash on there, and then look at the part right in here where it's almost like reddish gray, reddish sandy red looking, and then the tips of them burnt. The number 1 cylinder, that plug is really bad right there. Now what I found on number 7, right on top of the contact where it makes with the spark plug, you can see corrosion. See that green? See that green? So moisture has gotten in there. It's been in there so long, and this is what happens when you don't use dielectric grease when you put these back in. And even on the inside of the spark plug boot, you got that green residue. The it's like mold or some sort of acid buildup in there, and that right there will be enough to send a misfire code, because this cylinder can't get the spark it needs because of the corrosion. It's even right on the tip or right down there, and then when it fires down there, and being the spark plug here is worn out, that'll give you some problems. So since this got 200,000 miles, and I don't know when the last time he changed the plugs or the wires, seeing that corrosion, I'm going to tell him to get wires and plugs, because you can't just buy one wire. They come in a set. So he's going to have to get 8 plugs and 8 wires thus far. The number 3 cylinder, I seen have a little bit of oil around the spark plugs rings, around the spark plug grooves. Number 1, 5, and 7, they look pretty good. So I'm a little concerned about cylinder number 3. I'm gonna have to use a scope and with a flashlight and look down in there and see if there's oil buildup around there. Okay, this is the throttle position sensor right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is the clip. You pull on this end, pull on that end, and then pull that out. And you can actually change this on the truck without taking this off, but I rather do this on the bench because these clips, they're a real pain in the behind to take off. So it's easier to take the throttle body off and do it in that way. You can clean this throttle body right here, and as the throttle body turns, there's a little lever inside here that also turns, so it has to be lined up when you put it back on, and that's one of the reasons it had to go through a relearn process. But you know the drill. Take an air cleaner off, loosen the clamp on that side, and you got this little popper here, and it places in and loosen up the clamp and pull the hose off right there. So no big deal. So now we're going to pull off the spark plugs on that side. Once we get all the plugs off, then we're going to test the coils to see whether the coils are bad or not. Now, if you're ever working on a inline 6, I mean a V6 or a V8, I don't care whether it's front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, the engine is sideways. If you want to find the number 1 cylinder, when you look at the engine from the front on a rear wheel drive vehicle, you look at the banks, and the bank that comes further to you is going to be bank 1, and the bank that is further that way is bank 2. I can't show you on camera, but this bank here comes further to the radiator than this one does, and that's how you determine that this is the number 1 cylinder. And so that's how it would go. I can plainly see it here. When you get the air take breather off, you can understand, and you can actually see that. Well, you got spark plug wires and plugs, cylinders 1, 3, 5, 7. Driver bank, passenger bank 2, 4, 6, 8. And number 8, that is the worst on any Chevy Vortec engine. That's a V8. That number 8 cylinder is the worst spark plug to try and get out of there. You got to have the right socket, short, swivel one. Pray and hope you have favor of God to twist this boot off without breaking it. We're 8 for 8. We got them out, and that number 8 plug She is black there and there, and up underneath the firing tip there's ash all around it. So if I had my judgment, number 7, 3, 1, 2, 6, and 8. Those are the cylinders that was misfiring. And the number 7, number 6, 2, 3, and one more coil had corrosion on the end of the spark plug, and inside the spark plug boot is corroded. So that's what I'm going to recommend. Okay, YouTube, let's show you. We had a downstream oxygen sensor that was running rich, and before you rule that the oxygen sensor is bad, check for leaks after the downstream O2 sensor. That's after the cat. This is after the cat, and you can see the soot right there. That clamp is on crooked, and it's allowing air to escape, and this black soot that's coming out of there. But since that oxygen sensor was running rich, I would say that it's probably got soot all over it too, and it throws off the O2 sensor up front, which is bank 2 sensor 1. That's the upstream oxygen sensor, and this is the reason why. So I already put my PB blaster on there. I'm gonna see if I can get that clamp loose and straighten the clamp up and seal it from the air coming out of there. So we're gonna get we're getting new oxygen sensors anyway. So but there's your suspect right there. Always check the exhaust, and I check right around the O2 sensor, the downstream one and the upstream, and there's no other holes in the pipes. There's no black soot indicating any holes. So always remember that. I mean, you can see the black soot all the way around there, and the clamp is oblong, and you can see the soot trail here and all the way down here. So we're going to loosen up that clamp, which we got the PB blaster on it, and you see I can turn it. So we're going to loosen it up and get this clamp on right and see if we can seal that. Okay, we got 8 brand new AC Delco spark plugs. The Ironiums, they last 100,000 miles. We got 8 new spark plugs wires. Now you have to slide these protectors off of the boot, and these are heat shields to protect the rubber boot from the manifold exhaust pipes that get hot. So make sure the spring comes out with it. You slide them on the new spark plug, and then put your spark plug in there, and put some never sees on just the threads, a little bit on the threads of the spark plug, and then on the acrylic side put a little bit of that tune up dielectric grease on it, so you won't have trouble getting spark plugs off and pulling the wires out, and it'll make yourself easy. We got a new throttle body position sensor. I already unplugged that. We're going to take those 4 bolts out, pull it off, take it over the bench, get that taken care of. We got the Denso's upstream downstream oxygen sensor, and we're going to put those on, and we're going to clean that throttle body out, get it fixed. We're going to turn the check engine lights out, and we got a gas cap, and we're going to take this thing for a ride and see if any check engine lights come back on. Okay, I'll show you one. Okay, here's the spark plug boot. There's the heat shield. Before you put the heat shield on, you want to take and get some dielectric grease, put a little dab like that right in the boot. Then take your heat shield and slide it over top of the boot, just like that. And then this is gonna slide right over the top of the spark plug, down in there, and you want to push it in so you hear it pop. Pop. I heard the click. Then you can twist it until you get this boot nice and right that connects to the coil, and you hear the coil click in place. So that's how you do each spark plug. So you make sure you push them in until you hear the click. Now, never use a wrench to put the spark plug in. Use the extension and with your hands and twist it in so you don't cross thread it, and you never force it. Let it go nice and easy. If it stops, back it out and do it all over again, because these things go in sideways on an angle and sometimes they're hard to see. So take your time and be careful. You don't want to strip any of these threads out. And you just put a little dab of it, the dielectric grease, right where my finger is pointing at, right there. You can see that glob. Little dab on the porcelain part of that. So when the boot slides down over that, it's easier to slide in and out, and then it keeps corrosion from getting out of it when you just put a little dilithium grease on top of that boot. You won't get the corrosion you see that was on those wires. I just renamed that last spark plug on the passenger side there the 8th wonder of the world, number 8 plug. I start with the hardest one to get in first. That way everything else is easy, because you are working blind putting that down in there. And you see my socket right there. The little shiny swivel socket is a swivel socket that I got on there, and I threaded it in by hand so it's not cross threaded and it's tight. So now I got to put my socket on there and tighten it down as tight as I can, and we'll be done with the 8th wonder of the world. And then we got to do number 6, number 4, and number 2, and then we'll be done on the spark plugs. Okay, we successfully removed and replaced 8 spark plugs, 8 spark plug wires. 1, 3, 5, 7. Connected to the coils, nice and tight to the spark plugs. On bank 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. The 8th wonder of the world. All of them plugged nice and tight, and the boots are all connected on. Everything is looking good. So the tune-up portion of it is all set, and we went up underneath the vehicle and we had the PB blaster on that pipe on the downstream O2 sensor where the 2 pipes connect, where the little clamp was twisted and you saw the black soot coming out. Well, I cleaned that area up, loosened that up, and put the bracket back in the center and tightened it up real good. So we got that done. So now all we have left to do is to change the O2 sensors and do the throttle body. So I think we're gonna do the throttle body real quick, and then we'll do the upstream O2 sensor. The downstream we haven't got because it'll be tomorrow. But anyway, we're going to replace the upstream O2 sensor. But 1, 2, 3, 4 comes right off. There's a gasket in the back. Don't tear it up. You'll be fine. You can use brake cleaner as long as it doesn't have a certain chemical in it. But anyway, it's non-flammable. I have the non-flammable brake clean, so I just sprayed it on a cloth and just cleaned the throttle body out right in there. And when I get it off, I'll clean the back side of it off, and then we'll install everything. So I'm gonna take this over to the bench. What you want to note is the screws. These are 2 screw-on bolts, and those are not screw-on. Those are, they already have the, or whatever grade bolt to the head. And be respective of which, when they come out, if one's shorter, longer. So just make note of it when you take it off. If they're all the same size, just make sure the 2 matching bolts go in the bottom and the nuts goes on the top. Okay, does it matter? 2 bolts or 2 nuts, and these bolts are the same length, so it doesn't matter. So you got the studs, how to get them on, and so then you just wiggle off. Be careful of the gasket behind it, and make sure you have the electrical connection off. And this is the piece you have to pull back on, and then pull this up, because there's a little tongue underneath that goes into. So just make sure you have that in the right spot. There's the gasket I was telling you about. That's virtually life proof, and you can clean the back of this up. And we want to just clog that up so no air gets in there or dirt get in there. What are you talking about? Now this is why I like to do this on my workbench and not over a car. Here's the new throttle body position sensor, the TPS, and here's the new clips. These clips can be a pain in the behind to clip on. So that's the back of it. I already sprayed it with brake clean, the non-flammable type, and it dries fast, so we got a lot of the carbon off, and it's the throttle body's looking pretty good. So now this little hole right there, you see where that square is right there? That's where that shaft comes out of the throttle body plate. Every time the throttle body opens up, that, like that, when it opens up, that's what turns that. The computer turns it, how much to open the throttle up, so you can get the proper amount of air and fuel mixture into it. And so you got to remember the way it goes, but you got to line that pin up with where it's lined up now, and it still has to go through the relearn process. So I'll watch the angle that this one is on, and we'll get a little tiny screwdriver and turn it to that way where it is, and that way we can line it up just right. Or you can just take it and make sure you hooked onto that pin and twist it in and get it right into place, and then hook these clips. And you see the clips, they go inside that channel and right on the back of that channel, and them suckers could be a pain to clip on. And when you're trying to put it on in the engine and it clips, the clip falls, it falls down in the engine and you can't find it. That's why I love to take these off and do them on the bench. So the way to get these clips off, you want to take the screwdriver and get up under here and twist it up, and then you see how that part twists up and out of the back. And so when you put it on, you want to clip it onto the back, and then you got to squeeze it on like that. Now you can see how it's driven by the little gear, and right here is where this little shaft goes into that part right there. So this is the old one, and you see where it's at, lined up at. So what I want to make sure is that this one is lined up the same way, and I can see that there's a difference. This one is probably at the 11 o'clock position. The new one is at like the 7 o'clock position. So I have to turn it to get it to match up with a little tiny screwdriver. Let me go find one. These come with a new gasket. If you look in here, you see that sticking up. That's the new gasket. The old one was stuck on here, but I took it off and I just put it back right inside with there. Now, I got these lined up as best I can. These two things right here. I took my little small screwdriver and stuck it in and used that. Look at the angle from here to here, that I got them lined up here to here. So I think it's just about dead centered. So might not have to do the relearn process. May be lucky. But if it starts up and the idle just shoots up, I know I have to do the relearn procedure. But anyway, we just make sure that needle goes right in on that. Put that in and put those clips on. And remember, this side of the clip, this is going to go in the back half, and the other side is going to just press down into there and lock on. You got to use your fingers real tight. Is you can get through it, but it's a challenge.
You want sweet peas or corn?
That lined up perfect. Put it right straight on. So I don't think I'm gonna have to relearn this. If you ever do these types of throttle position sensors, like I said, you better make darn sure you take this thing off of the intake and do it on the counter, because these clips, I'm telling you, you're going to be pressing with your might to get these clips on. So I got one clip on one side, one clip on the other side to hold it. I wish there was some way I can have the camera going and show you how hard it is to press these things on here. I mean, you're going to strain to do it, and you'll thank me. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Take them off the vehicle and do it. A lot easier. Okay, I've gone as far as I wanted to go today. The whole top of the engine is all buttoned up. Everything's plugged in, back together. I got the 2 upstream oxygen sensors on. That is bank 1, sensor 1, oxygen sensor on. Bank 2, sensor 1, oxygen sensor in, and that is upstream oxygen sensor. So tomorrow we have the rear downstream oxygen sensor coming. Bank 1, sensor 2, bank 2, sensor 2. And that is the rear oxygen sensor. That's after the catalytic converters. And you saw where we sealed that leak up at. And we put a new gas cap on it also. And that may help with the little small evap leak. And so when I get the O2 sensors tomorrow, I already got them loose. So not to leave a hole there. So I got them loose, and tomorrow just twist them off by hand, plug and play. Then we're going to crank her up to see if we got the throttle body dialed in right. And if that's dialed in right, then we'll go ahead and we'll erase the codes and then check and make sure the codes are erased. Then we will exit from the computer or the scan tool, and then we will start the vehicle up, take it for about a good 15-20 minute ride, and see if the check engine light comes back on. If any lights come on, it may be the evap. We might have taken care of it, we may not taken care of it. It could be the vent valve, it could be the purge valve. So, but I'm hoping it was just a gas tank, because it was just a small evap leak. Other than that, I tested some of the coils that had the worst spark plugs in that cylinder, and those plugs were within specs between 7,500 ohms and 10,000 ohms on my voltmeter on ohms. You touch the leads on it, and so I'll satisfy with that. So the misfire should be taken care of. So I'm confident this is going to run pretty good once we go ahead and start it. And we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless. Rev it up, Mustang Fanatic Productions, Mechanic Edition. Mechanic Edition. Okay, I just went through my idle relearn and the throttle potential relearn with my Maxicam MK808. Now I'm going to erase all the codes. We're erasing the codes. Codes have been erased successfully. Return to the function menu and tap code to verify. So let's go back to read codes. No code fault detected, so we cleared all the codes. So now we're going to escape. And we're back. Now we can disconnect. We can turn our engine on. Oh, I'm sorry. I started it up. Idling okay. Idle drops back down. Good engine oil pressure. So we're going to take this for a ride and see if any check engine lights come back on. Rev here. Rev it up, Mustang Fanatic Productions Mechanic Edition. We taking the 2013 Chevy Silverado out for a ride. We've gone about 8 miles so far. We're on Highway 22. I'm at highway speed of 65, and so far we have no check engine light on. She idles smooth, she runs smooth. When we come to a stop, the engine doesn't want to stumble or seem like it wants to stall anymore. She seems to be very happy. We're at operating temperature of 210 degrees, and the fans will kick in, bring it back down to about 190, but we're at speeds of 165, and for a truck that's got 231,325 miles, runs pretty good. I love these Chevy Vortec, these 4.7 liters engine. They're very good engines, very reliable, easy to work on. I love working on these things. They're fairly easy. So just enjoying my cruise. Taking the same route that I did when I fixed the Cadillac. And you get up to operating temperatures to try and produce the same situations you did when the check engine lights had came on, to make sure you solved all the issues. And this had several issues. Number one, we had the P0303, that is P300, or I believe it's that it is, but it's multiple misfires. Then we had P0171, which is O2 sensor voltage low upstream. Then we have P017A downstream O2 sensors running rich. Then we had a throttle position sensor voltage high. Then we had a P0442 or something like that. That's a small evac leak. And so we found the leak in past the downstream O2 sensor, where there's a leak in the exhaust. The bracket was crooked, and you saw all the black soot that was on there. We cleaned that up. We tightened that clamp up pretty good. So we put on our upstream O2 sensor and our downstream O2 sensor. So that's bank 2, sensor 1 is upstream. Bank 2, sensor 2 is downstream. So we got that, and we put on a new gas cap to help with the small evac leak. And so far we're still doing pretty good. So those are the things we had to do. And then doing the throttle position sensor, you have to have the scan tool to relearn the throttle position sensor and relearn the idle on it. So I went through the procedures of doing both of those, and she accelerates good, she rides smooth. Everything looks pretty good so far, and I thank God and pray that it will continue to do very well. So we got 8 brand new spark plugs, 8 spark plug wires. We tested the coils. The coils was within specs, so those are pretty good. And yeah, we did a good bit of work on this, and it's gonna pay off for the owner. All right, we'll chat with you later. God bless. We want you to get a good look at the dash, and you can see that is a tire pressure monitoring system. There's no check engine light. It would be a yellow engine symbol in there. And we've gone almost 17 miles, maybe close to 20 miles. So we're getting ready to jump off the highway and get back on the road to head back to the house, get in some stop and go environments. I aired up all the tire pressures. That's what I do, just out of customary. And I put 44 pounds of pressure in each tire. And so I'm gonna see if I can turn off this tire pressure monitoring system for him, so that light doesn't be a pest. Those lights can be a pain in the behind. So he might have had a new tire put on, and the pip probably didn't have the tool to reset and talk to the tire pressure monitor sensor. So we'll see if we can get that hooked up for him. That'd be a plus. Alrighty. Rev Mustang Fanatic Productions Mechanic Edition. The reason I'm wearing the mask is not my vehicle. So whenever I drive somebody else's vehicle, I wear my mask. I have my gloves on. Still being safe and practicing CDC guidelines. You never can be too careful. You know, God gives us the spirit of not of fear, but of love and a power and of a sound mind. So to have a sound mind, you got to use wisdom in everything you do. That's today's godly lesson. God bless. Love you guys. Like and subscribe. All right, so we made it back to the house, and we must have been at least close to 38 miles trip, and still all we have is a tire pressure monitoring system on. No check engine light. Everything's run smooth, sounding good. He'll be on his way to pick the car up, and I think he's gonna be happy. See that? 231,341 miles. Outstanding. I'm gonna see if I can get that throttle position, the tire pressure monitoring system light to turn off.